Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Against the Sky Supreme based on novel. So let's start. Jinglu, let's go. Tan Yun smiled slightly. Yeah. Jinglu smiled, and immediately, the two jumped down from the top of the peak, like two meteors, brought two water flowers, plunged into the Qingyang Shenhu Lake, and flew towards the bottom of the lake. Half an hour later, Tan Yun and the two reached the bottom of the lake. Jinglu took Tan Yun and swam through a huge gap at the bottom of the lake, and finally came to a cave at the bottom of the lake. The entrance to the cave is tens of thousands of zhong huge, and the cave house is even bigger, which is 1,000,000 zhong huge. On the surface of the cave, there is a teleportation formation. It's just that this teleportation array is not paved with space-time blood crystals, but is composed of a strange-shaped text. Brother. Jinglu's teeth turned softly, and a pleasant voice sounded. These words are said to be known only by the Supreme Chaos, not even by the Supreme Origin. Supreme Chaos 30,000 years ago, she saw that this was a teleportation formation, and she cracked it, and then transformed it on the basis of this formation, so that people only need to consume 100 pieces of top-quality divine jade. You can open the teleportation array. Well, I understand. Tan Yun replied, looking at the text on the teleportation array under his feet, and gradually frowned. Looking at Tan Yun, who was worried, Jinglu said softly, "Brother, what's the matter with you?" Tan Yun said, "Xiaolu, for some reason, I found that I knew these words, and I could also see the structure of the teleportation array." What? Jinglu's beautiful eyes widened, and she said with an incredible voice transmission, "Brother, it is said that this teleportation array is a product of the last universe. How do you know it?" Tan Yun frowned, and said through voice transmission, "Not only do I know each other, but I read these words, and for some reason, my heart is a little sad and sad. I feel." Tan Yun's soulless voice transmission said, "I feel inexplicably sad, as if these words are like flesh cut from my body, the same heartache. Why do I know these words, and why do I feel inexplicable sadness?" Just when Tan Yun was transmitting the sound, suddenly, a sneer came from outside the cave. "You too, how are you?" Tan Yun and Jinglu suddenly looked back, but saw 8 giants as tall as 100 zhong and walked in. Titan giant. Tan Yun froze in his heart, and said through a voice transmission, "Xiaolu, I can't see the cultivation level of the 8 people. The 8 people are at least the 7th level gods. What realm are they?" Tan Yun knew that Jinglu had golden eyes, and like Xianyuan Ru, she could see through anyone's cultivation. "Yeah." Jinglu said in a voiceless voice. "The giant titan headed by him is a 2nd-class semi-holy. The remaining 7 people are all 9th-class gods. Brother, we are not their opponents." "Okay, I understand." After Tan Yun's voice transmission, he clasped his fists and bowed. "Respected senior titan, what are your orders?" The giant titan-headed, arrogantly said, "Don't be nervous, I am not greedy for beauty, and I will not kill you. I'm just a little tight. I hand over all the divine jade on your body, and then your little lives will be saved. Otherwise, I don't mind moving my feet and crushing you." Hearing this, Tan Yun nodded and said, "Yes, yes, this junior will give you the divine jade." When Tan Yun was about to take out the divine jade in the fairy ring, the giant titan stretched out his right hand. "Give me the fairy ring, and I'll take it myself." Tan Yun frowned, then took off the immortal ring and handed it to the titan. The titan released his divine sense, and after entering the immortal ring, his huge eyes suddenly lit up. "Not bad boy. There are so many divine jades, and so many earth snakes." Saying that, all the earth snakes and divine jades in the giant titan's control fairy ring flew out and landed in his giant palm. These earth god snakes are expensive. I will be able to sell a lot of god jade in Fang market in the future, ha 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 ha. The giant titan said with a smile, if I am not interested in other things, I will give them to you. Saying that, the giant titan waved his right hand and threw the immortal ring on the ground. Immediately, after walking past Tan Yun with 7 subordinates, he wanted to use 100 pieces of top-quality divine jade to open the teleportation formation. At this moment, Tan Yun's face was calm, but in fact, his heart was murderous. Grass. You wait for me. I will smash your corpses into 10,000 pieces sooner or later. After making up his mind, Tan Yun beckoned, and the immortal ring on the ground rose into the air and took it into his hand. After Tan Yun put on the immortal ring, he looked at the 8 titan giants with a stunned expression and said, Senior, this junior cannot open the teleportation formation without the divine jade on his body. Can you bring the junior and enter the ancient **** realm together? The giant titan suddenly laughed, looked down at Tan Yun and sneered. A humble human race like you also want to ride in the teleportation formation with this vice-general. Get out of this, lieutenant. Hearing this, when Tan Yun was about to speak, a male voice sounded in his mind, dude, forget it, stop talking. These titan giants are ferocious in nature, they are just **** robbers. If you say it again, you will be mercilessly killed by them. Also, the leader of the Titan, named Darbas, is the lieutenant in the Titan army. We can't afford to offend him. Hearing this, Tan Yun looked at Darbas and said respectfully, Junior will leave now. With that said, Tan Yun pulled Jinglu, turned and walked out of the cave. Mother, it's almost the same. Darbas scolded his subordinates, inspired the teleportation formation, and left the cave. At this moment, outside the cave, Tan Yun saw a simple and honest 6th-class celestial youth looking at him. Tan Yun clasped his fist and said, Jing Yun, thank you Shungtai for reminding me. The young man cupped his hands and said, you don't have to be polite, it's just a matter of raising your hands. You don't have the divine jade. I have it, you just follow me into the ancient **** realm. Thank you so much. Tan Yun said with a smile, brother, are you also a **** army? Yeah. The young man said, my dear Bo Shu, my commander is the famous God King Bo Cheng. God King Bai Cheng. Tan Yun was confused. He remembered that there was only one God King named Bai, and that was Bai Zhongyong, who betrayed him in the past. Tan Yun said quietly, Brother Bai, I just ascended to the God realm not long ago, and I don't know much about the Hongmeng God realm. I heard before that there is not only one **** king named Bai Zhongyong. Hearing the 3 words, Bai Zhongyong, Bai Shu's eyes flashed with a touch of unnoticeable sadness, and he said, his old man died in the extraterritorial universe a long time ago. The current king Bai Cheng is the grandson of his old man. Hearing this, Tan Yun sneered in his heart, you deserve to die. Okay, no more to say, brother Jing, let me take you in. At this moment, Bo Shu smiled. Okay, thank you very much. I will definitely repay the kindness of helping out today. Tan Yun said with a fist. Bo Shu waved his hand, you don't have to worry about it. Then, when Bo Shu's divine ring flickered, 100 pieces of top-quality divine jade flew out, and shot steadily into the teleportation array's eyes. As the 100 pieces of top-quality divine jade were embedded in the formation eye, the space in the huge cave trembled frequently. The next moment, Tan Yun and the 3 disappeared out of thin air. Immediately, the scene in front of Tan Yun's eyes changed, and he found himself standing on the grass. Looking out, there is a lake in front of the grass, and on the opposite side of the lake is a city. Just the city gate. It is as high as 1,000,000 zhong. Tan Yun looked at the city gate, a little absent-minded. For some reason, the faint sadness filled his heart again. He looked at the meadows with blooming flowers all around, the lakeside under the blue sky, and the ancient giant city on the other side of the lake. A familiar feeling struck him. Looking at the grass and trees in his field of vision, he became more and more familiar, as if he had been here before. But Tan Yun is very clear that he has never been in the future. Brother Jing, it's time for me to go, we will have a date later. Bo Shu clasped his fists and said, I hope you can find the treasures of heaven and earth. And here is 100 pieces of top-quality divine jade, you take it, you need it when you leave. Tan Yun clasped his fists and said, Thank you, Brother Bo, the divine jade will be returned in the future. Afterwards, Bo Shu smiled, and after leaving 100 pieces of top-quality divine jade for Tan Yun, it turned into a beam of light, and shot into the city gate. Husband, what's wrong with you? At this moment, Shen Subing's worried voice sounded in Tan Yun's mind. Although Shen Subing was in the Lingxiao pagoda in Tan Yun's ears, she, the girls and the beasts were able to peep outside. Naturally, I can see the unconcealed sadness in Tan Yun's eyes. Tan Yun sent a voice transmission to Shen Subing. Subing, I don't know why, when I see this place, I feel inexplicably sad. I seem to know that every grass and tree here knows everything in the ancient city. Tan Yun looked at a line of strange handwriting on the city gate, and said, This city is called the City of Immortal Ancient Gods. Immortal Ancient God. Shen Subing said, Husband, I've never heard of it. At this moment, Su Bing was sinking in the tower, as if thinking of something, and said through a voice transmission, Husband, I remember you said that you have seen it in the classics. With the two great destructions of the universe, among the billions of races, there are 4 major races, has the possibility of a cosmic cataclysm without dying. You said at the time that the first type was the undead giants. The second is Ying's celestial clan. The third type is your disciples 7 veins ancient Protoss. There is the last one. Because of the broken classics, you can't know the 4th race. Could it be that this last one is the immortal ancient god race? Also, why does Sun Xuanqi, the supreme eldest of chaos, recognize the handwriting of the immortal ancient Protoss, just like you? Speaking of which, Shen Subing came out of thin air in front of Tan Yun. Her eyes widened and she stared at Tan Yun. Husband, Zuan Yuanru's father, in the past, he deduced to you that when you said that you were the supreme being, wasn't it the first life? Then you feel so familiar here, and here are the relics left over from the last cosmos catastrophe. Could it be? Could it be that your true identity is the immortal ancient god? Tan Yun frowned. There is a possibility, let's go first and see if we can evoke my memory. As for why Chaos Supreme knows the handwriting of the immortal ancient Protoss, one day, I will ask her personally. After saying this, Tan Yun hugged Shen Subing gently, and said affectionately and worriedly, You are too beautiful, it is not safe outside, you should enter the Lingxiao pagoda first. Well. Shen Subing nodded, looked at Jinglu, and urged, Protect your brother. Don't worry, sister-in-law, I will. Jinglu smiled. Afterwards, Shen Subing turned into a beam of light, and disappeared into the Lingxiao pagoda in Tan Yun's ears. Tan Yun looked at the ancient city of immortality, took a deep breath, and thought to himself, if I am really a member of the immortal ancient gods, then wouldn't I be the same clan as the soul-devouring abyss of the 9 heavens immortal realm, the giant woman in the giant coffin? Confused, Tan Yun and Jinglu took off and flew towards the city gate while asking, Jinglu, are you familiar with this immortal ancient city? Well, I've been here a few times, and I probably know the structure. Jinglu responded. Tan Yun said, if I'm not wrong, the ancient city of immortality is quite vast, reaching 9 trillion billion cents. In the ancient city of immortal gods, a quarter is a mountain range, and a quarter is an immortal forest. A quarter are lakes and streams, and the remaining quarter are buildings, right? Jinglu looked at Tan Yun in disbelief and nodded frequently. Brother, you are right. Tan Yun said again, in the center of the ancient city of immortality, there is a mansion called the Immortal God's Mansion, right? This mansion occupies an area of hundreds of millions of immortals, and it is magnificent and simple, right? Jinglu's head twitched like a chicken pecking at rice. Brother, there is indeed a mansion in the center of the ancient city of immortality, covering an area of 130 million cents. The houses in the mansion are the smallest. It is as high as 30,000 jong, and it seems that the people of the immortal ancient god race are quite huge. As for this mansion, whether it is the immortal god's mansion, I don't know, because no one knows the handwriting on the mansion. Oh, by the way, brother, there is an ancient temple in this mansion, and there is a ban. Even the two supreme beings did not break the ban at that time. Hearing this, Tan Yun said, let's go to the ancient temple you mentioned first. In the next 6 months, Tan Yun and Jinglu flew all the way to the mansion in the center of the city in the ancient city of immortality. Due to the huge city, Tan Yun did not meet anyone else on the way. When flying towards the mansion, Tan Yun looked at the buildings that were dozens of meters high and hundreds of thousands of meters high, and he vaguely thought of something, but he just couldn't remember it. Night falls. Tan Yun and Jing Lu arrived in front of a magnificent mansion in the center of the city. Tan Yun looked up at the 4 peculiar characters on the gate of the mansion, his pupils shrank, and he found 4 traces. Go in. After Tan Yun left a sentence, he stepped into the giant gate of the mansion step by step. What caught his eye was the overgrown mansion compound. Brother, I'll take you to the ancient temple with restrictions. After Jinglu said, he took Tan Yun and shuttled through the magnificent, but desolate mansion at the moment. Tan Yun followed Jinglu and flew over the pavilions and suddenly said, Little Lu, wait. When Jinglu heard the words, she suddenly looked back and found that Tan Yun was suspended in the sky in front of a monument that was as high as 1 million jong. Standing in a small lake, the monument is nothing special except that it is as tall as a mountain. Brother, what's wrong? Jing Lu asked. Tan Yun said through a voice transmission, this monument seems to be called the Zhenfu God Stele. After speaking, Tan Yun flew over the lake and suspended in front of the god Stele. Immediately, the divine power brought up a layer of dust. When the dust on the stele was removed, the 4 characters of the immortal ancient protos of the ancient gods were written on the stele. At this moment, Tan Yun's right hand instinctively traced mysterious trajectories, and then he pushed towards the Zhenfu God monument in the air. Immediately, a force of Hongmeng people and gods poured into the monument of Zhenfu. Buzz dash. In an instant, the sky was surging, an array of light that was tens of thousands of feet thick rose into the sky from the monument of the Zhenfu god. Immediately, it spread out and turned into an incomparably huge light curtain, covering the entire immortal god's palace. However, the grand formation of the protectorate of the immortal divine palace was opened. Looking at this miraculous scene, Jing Lu's beautiful eyes were full of shock. On the other hand, Tan Yun's expression became more and more confused. Confused, Tan Yun racked his brains to think about it, but he still couldn't remember any memories of the immortal god palace. Tan Yun released his divine sense and enveloped the entire mansion. After finding that the mansion was empty, he looked back at Jing Lu and said, Go to the ancient temple you mentioned. Well. Jing Lu took Tan Yun and flew all the way to the depths of the mansion. After a while, they came to the back of the mansion, outside an ancient palace as high as 100,000 jong. Brother, it's here. Jing Lu pointed to the 3-story ancient temple in front of him. Tan Yun nodded, and after expressing his understanding, he swept up the huge steps and stood in front of the first-floor gate. Tan Yun closed his eyes, released his consciousness, enveloped the door of the hall, and began to observe the prohibition of the immortal ancient protos arranged on the door of the hall. After just a moment, Tan Yun closed his eyes, and with his hands from his chest, he quickly danced out a mysterious and unpredictable trajectory, and then he pushed his hands towards the hall door. Boom! Boom! With a loud bang, then, the temple door, which had been sealed for thousands of years, slowly opened with a burst of dust. Outside the hall, when Tan Yun saw clearly the scene inside the hall, he couldn't help but be slightly taken aback. And the same is true of Jing Lu behind him. In the sight of the two, they saw that the hall on the first floor was covered with bright red silk and satin, and the walls were covered with the word, Hi, from the immortal ancient Protoss. Just like when they were married. Tan Yun frowned, and when he stepped into the hall, suddenly, in front of Tan Yun, an ethereal old man appeared. Tan Yun knew that the old man had already died, and this was just a remnant of his soul that was about to disappear. Old slave to meet my uncle. The old man knelt down on his mountain-like body facing Tan Yun. Uncle. Tan Yun was stunned. The old man kowtowed and choked. When the door of the palace opened, the old slave knew that it was Uncle, you came back. Because in the entire universe, the only people who can open the door of this hall are you and the Immortal Lord. Uncle, after your death, the Immortal Lord, I regretted not agreeing to marry you at the beginning. So the Immortal Lord held your corpse and completed the wedding in the witness of all of our immortal ancient Protoss. Lord Immortal, she believes that one day you will be reincarnated and come back. So when the universe is shattered, Lord Immortal will seal the remnant soul of the old slave here, to protect the old slave. Let the old slave wait for the day you return. The Immortal Lord asked the old slave to tell you, my uncle, that she really loves you, and loves you more than herself. Speaking of this, the old man's figure became more and more illusory, as if it would dissipate at any time. Tan Yun was a little confused. He hurriedly said, you call me uncle, then what is my name? I am the immortal ancient Protoss, right? Also, what is the name of my wife, the Immortal Lord, in your mouth? In the face of Tan Yun's series of inquiries, the old man said intermittently, Master, you are from the immortal ancient god clan. You were once a famous immortal god of. After speaking here, the figure of the old man quickly dissipated. You finish your sentence. Tan Yun said anxiously, who am I? What is the name of my wife, the Immortal Lord? Where is she? With Tan Yun's roar on his face, no one in the hall responded. The old man had dissipated into the air and was completely dead. Whoosh whoosh. At this time, Tan Yun's 7 wives, Feng Qingcheng and Ouyang Qianqian, appeared out of thin air in front of Tan Yun. Immediately afterwards, the others also flew out of the Lingxiao Pagoda. When everyone was in the Lingxiao Pagoda, they saw the conversation between Tan Yun and the old man just now. At this moment, especially Tan Yun's 7 wives and 2 fiancés, they were shocked. It turned out that Tan Yun was really the immortal ancient ****** clan, one of the 4 ***** clans in the universe before. And the Immortal Lord is Tan Yun's wife. Tan Yun clenched his fists and roared, what happened? Why can't I remember it? How did I die before? Who am I? Immortal Lord, who is she? The greatest tragedy in life is to live for countless years, without even knowing who you are. At this moment, the grief in Tan Yun's heart can be imagined. Tan Yun, don't be too sad. Ouyang Qianqian looked at Tan Yun distressedly, took a step forward, put Tan Yun in his arms, and comforted. Tan Yun, the soul-devouring abyss of the 9 heavens immortal realm, the woman in the giant coffin, is likely to be the Immortal Lord. It's useless if you think too much now. Only after she is reborn, if you find her, all your confusions will be answered. Shun Subing agreed, husband, Qianqian is right. Yeah. Tan Yun took a deep breath and calmed down, that's right, the top priority, we still have to find training resources and improve our strength. If she in the soul-devouring abyss is really the wife of the immortal Lord, she will have at least 28,000 years to wake up. This awakening time is too long. I must improve my strength as soon as possible, return to the Hongmeng Nine Heavens immortal realm as soon as possible, take her away, and help her wake up as soon as possible. After making up his mind, Tan Yun cast a reassuring smile at the girls. You don't have to worry about me, I'm fine. I'll go up and have a look. After that, Tan Yun walked towards the stairs leading to the second floor hall step by step. Brother-in-law, I also want to see. Before Shueziyan finished speaking, Tang Mingji pulled Shueziyan and said, What are you going to join in the fun? Let your brother-in-law be alone. If I'm not mistaken, it must be the wedding room. At this moment, the girls tacitly knew that they did not follow Tan Yun to the second floor, wanting to give Tan Yun some quiet time alone. As Tang Mingyu expected, when Tan Yun came to the second floor, he found that the huge room was indeed a wedding room. Although it has been a long time, Tan Yun can still see that the immortal lord at that time was a carefully arranged wedding room. Tan Yun looked around the room, and finally his eyes were fixed on a giant painting. In the painting, a man wearing a battle armor stands upright on a peak, looking up at the sky. Strangely, the man's face was blank. Looking at the faceless giant, Tan Yun felt a little familiar. Just as he was thinking about it, he seemed to have made a new discovery. He rose into the air and hovered in front of the scroll, but saw lines of handwriting written in the lower right corner of the painting. Tan Yun looked at it with his eyes fixed, but saw that it was written in the immortal ancient Protoss script. Time flies like a shuttle, and a shuttle goes to a shuttle. I don't know if it's messed up. Writing to draw Jun Yang, the liver and intestines are broken, it is difficult to rely on this lovesickness. Looking and looking, drunk, dreaming and dying for another life. The oath of the past life, you still know. Signed by, Wife Yuyen. Looking at the handwriting left by the immortal lord, Tan Yun felt heartache in his heart, and muttered to himself, Yuyen, Yuyen, is your name Yuyen? Tan Yun flicked his right arm lightly, and suddenly, the picture scroll on the wall flew away from the wall, rolled up from the void, turned into a beam of light, and ingested the immortal ring. Tan Yun looked at the wedding room, his sad eyes gradually became firm, and he said loudly, Yuyen, you can stay in the soul-devouring abyss first, and when I am strong, I will go to the Hongmeng Nine Heavens immortal realm and take you out of there. After making up his mind, Tan Yun turned his head, stepped out of the room, and came to the main hall on the first floor. Tan Yun looked at the crowd and said, You can enter the Lingxiao Pagoda. Xiaolu and I can just go look for cultivation resources. Well, then you should be more careful. Shun Subing took a step forward, and after virtuously adjusting Tan Yunlu's robes, she and everyone flew into the Lingxiao Pagoda in Tan Yun's ears. Afterwards, Tan Yun and Jing Lu stepped out of the ancient palace, and when Tan Yun looked back, the gate of the palace was closed. Then, Tan Yun came to the center of the mansion, and looked at the monument of the town's mansion. He thought that if the mansion guarding formation was activated, once it was noticed, it would definitely be reported to Lingxia Tianzuan, so Tan Yun lifted the mansion guarding formation again. After the two flew out of the immortal divine palace, Jing Lu said, Brother, in the immortal forest in the north, the heaven and earth divine essence is quite rich, and this is also the reason. Many heaven and earth treasures have been bred in the immortal forest. Among them, human god fruit, earth god snake, and heaven god spring. It's just that because there are many treasures in the immortal forest, there are many gods who go to treasure hunters. Tan Yun said, I understand your concerns. I will go even if there is a risk. Benefits and risks will always coexist. Yeah. Jing Lu nodded and said, Brother, let's set off. At my speed, it is estimated that after half a year, we will reach the entrance to the south of the immortal forest. Brother, you can also enter the Lingxiao Tower, and I'll take you there. Okay. After Tan Yun responded, he took out the Lingxiao pagoda and entered it. Jinglu turned the Lingxiao pagoda into a cuff, turned it into a golden beam, disappeared into the sky, and headed towards the immortal forest. Time flies like an arrow. Half a year later, a beam of golden light flew down from the sea of clouds, and turned into a dew at the southern exit of the immortal forest. Brother, the immortal forest is here. Jinglu Yingying smiled. Tan Yun came out of thin air from Jinglu's side and said with a smile, "It's been hard work all the way." "It's not hard work, it's my honor to be able to help my brother." Jinglu smiled and sacrificed the Lingxiao pagoda in his sleeve and returned it to Tan Yun. After Tan Yun brought Lingxiao pagoda into his ears, the voice transmission asked Wuxin Shangshan, Ouyang Duantian, Guan Xiankong, Guan Xuankui, Huangfu Guchong, Qian Lao, and Wei Quan to leave the pagoda and accompany him to find heaven and earth. Precious. The reason why Tan Yun didn't let all the women come out was because each of these women was an alluring country. Sometimes, people are too beautiful, and they will find some unnecessary troubles. When the 7 people appeared beside Tan Yun looked at everyone and said, "Immortal forest, I know very well. There are some divine herbs in it, which are unique products in the last universe. Few people know about the gods in this universe. In this way, we can find these sacred grasses, and then sell them at a high price in Qingyangfang City, or exchange them with others for what we need. Among these divine herbs, 3 are known as treasures, which are invaluable. I am condensing images for you now, you should look carefully." While Tan Yun was talking, he waved his right arm, and a puff of divine power transformed into a picture from the void. There are 3 kinds of divine herbs on the screen. Tan Yun explained, the first type, 1 foot tall, has 9 leaves, the whole body is green, and it is called the soul-retaining divine grass. The value of this grass is extremely high. If someone's soul is damaged, they will recover within an hour by chewing one directly and taking it. The second kind, a ****** grass, with a height of 1 foot 3 inches, no leaves, and only one bright red flower, called the bloodthirsty ***** flower. This kind of divine flower, after taking one, will make the blood boil in the body, and it can instantly increase the strength by 10%, which is extremely precious. The third type, 2 feet and 2 inches high, has 6 leaves, and the whole body is crystal clear. It is called the bright god grass. This divine herb has a significant effect on dying people. It can keep people from dying within 7 to 79 hours, providing the opportunity to wait until they are rescued. Hearing this, everyone's eyes lit up. The efficacy of these divine herbs is simply against the sky. Tan Yun looked at the crowd and said, "After we enter the immortal forest, there are only 6 kinds of heaven and earth treasures that we are mainly looking for. That's the god of human fruit, the god of earth snake, the god of heaven, the god of soul, the god of bloodthirsty flower, and the god of light. If you remember, then we'll go." When everyone heard the words, they said in unison, "Remember." "Okay, let's go." After Tan Yun said, he and the 8 people approached the immortal forest that covered the sky and the sun, and began to search for 6 kinds of heaven and earth treasures. Time flies. 1 month later. In a month, Tan Yun and 9 people found 300 divine fruits, 120 divine snakes, and 36 divine springs. There are also a large number of soul-accumulating divine grass, bloodthirsty divine flower, and bright divine grass. The faces of the 8 people are full of smiles, and it seems that they are lucky. 3 days later, Tan Yun and 9 people had entered the central area of the immortal forest. 9 people in the dense forest, not far from each other, are still looking for 6 kinds of heaven and earth treasures. At this time, Ouyang Duantian seemed to have found something. He leaned over and pushed aside the dense grass with both hands, and found a bunch of godly flowers. He knew that the root of the earth ***** flower was called the earth ***** snake. And there are as many as 300 earth god flowers in this cluster. Yuna, come here. There are a lot of snakes here. Ouyang Duantian shouted excitedly. Whoosh whoosh. At this moment, 6 old men from the earth god realm emerged out of thin air from Ouyang Duantian. The first one was the 8th level earth god, and the remaining 5 were all 7th level earth gods. TSK, not bad. The leading old man laughed loudly. Not bad. This time I actually encountered so many divine snakes. Give these divine snakes to our shopkeeper, and we have made a great contribution again. Ouyang Duantian turned his head to look at the crowd, opened his arms to protect the earth god snake behind him, and asked, "This is what this old man found out. What do you want to do?" The old man at the head said extremely arrogantly, "What do you think we want to do? Of course it's a robbery, ha 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 ha." Crack! The old man flashed in the air, and slapped Ouyang Duantian in the face with a slap in the face, sending Ouyang Duantian flying 100 feet, and smashing it to the ground. This video will end here.